Hi guys, and welcome back to another exciting episode. In this episode we're looking at creating amazing gardens. We'll have at least 10 ideas here that you should be able to use. So one of the things, I guess, if you want to extend your use of your garden and your entertainment area, then having a fire feature is a great way to go, and you can sit around. It's quite sociable. I'd love to get one of these in my garden. I haven't yet added one of these, but they certainly look pretty cool. And if I was going to add one, I'd probably add something maybe along the lines of this here, this sort of outdoor entertainment wood, natural wood burning. To extend your use in the garden, especially in the hot summer months, you've got things like the pergolas, and these ones here, modern versions of that. They have the Louvertech systems, and these various fins at the top can be adjusted. They can be automatic or they're manual. You just can sort of shut them off to take out the sun, or let them open to let the sun in. Of course, you don't have to have Louvertech systems. You can have just a straight umbrella, and these umbrellas can be placed onto wheels and moved around. Very elegant. These ones here from Shade 7, very sort of top quality looking umbrellas. And then you can't really go past water and swimming and spa pools. That's a really nice way to add another dimension to your garden, where you can go out, sit in a hot spa pool in the winter. Of course, it's really good for winter time, not so good for summer. And the same with swimming pools. This one here is the idea that you've got an infinity pool. Of course, they all come with a price tag and maintenance, but really extend the use of your garden. So if we take a different look now at something that is a little bit more affordable, I guess, containers. I think this is something that everybody can do. Generally with containers, you're looking for a large container, and it doesn't have to be a pot. It can be, in this case here, in the shape of a boat, or it can be just a big built-up retaining wall encompassing. This one here has got a pohutukawa and some rangirangi lilies. Of course, containers don't have to have plants in them. You can just have them as a feature in their own right, and you can see some very nice like glaze pots here and a terracotta before. One that was from Denman's garden in England, and this is Total Water's garden. And of course they can, if naturally weathered, they can get lichen on and really become a really interesting focal point for your garden. But yeah, generally need something quite decent size if you're going to use a ornament in a container. Of course, if you want to sort of sit and stay in a garden and appreciate that garden over time, you need somewhere to sit, and there's all sorts of chairs. This is a Luton style chair, very sort of formal. Of course, if you add paint to them, they can really pop out and also become a feature in their own right. So not just a sort of place to sit, but also a sort of focal point. Of course, when you're placing a seat, you need to place them in areas that really are a good place to get the view. Water features, you can't really go past water features as focal points. They add sound, they have their visuals, there's reflections, and you've got all sorts of different styles and types, from contemporary modern to more traditional. This is one in Sanzin Garden, where it's just basically water coming out from a bamboo stick into a stone pot. And of course, on the big grand scale, you've got this one here from Villa d'Este, which is a magnificent waterfall. Waterfalls are good, especially for hot countries, but in really cold countries, the sound of water can sometimes be a little bit off-putting. So in colder countries like the UK, this is one from Stourhead, water's quite often used in reflective ponds and large lakes. So that can look quite effective too. And on a smaller scale, you've got this one here from Northview, or places like Monet's garden, just a smaller water feature. So adding wildlife, I think, is a real great thing to do. You know, it's a good thing for biodiversity. Here's a really cool idea from Eden Gardens, where they painted these bird boxes in different colours to make them a feature. And of course, if you want birds and butterflies and bees to come into your garden, then you have to sort of feed them. And this is one at the Thomas's Dream Garden, and just outside of Queenstown, feeding the peacocks there. In my own garden, that's a bird bath that I've got, and that's amazing. It really brings in all sorts of birds, from the tuis to just to your standard sort of sparrows. So you've got butterflies, and butterflies are really cool to add another dimension. They're amazing. And so Going on to the next point, we've got themed gardens. So this is just about limiting the amount of different types of plants you put into a garden. So if you go down to the nurseries, there's literally thousands and thousands of different types of plants. If you put one or two in of every one type in your garden, then you just have a very confused garden. So this is where you're trying to sort of plant in clumps and groups and trying to reduce the amount of different types of plants. And so in this one here, in Agricent Gardens, they focus more on just the subtropical plants, those lush plants with leaves. So we just did a video on architectural plants, which is well worth to have a look at. And architectural plants give you are those wow plants. So they're just something that will give a little bit more interest and sort of those sort of stand out. So you've got plants, natural plants like these Nika palms, which look like a shuttlecock, and then you've got the Mullumbeki underneath there clipped. And these plants in themselves, these aloe polyphyllus, they really are kind of quite cool because they will form this really interesting sort of spiral aloe. And those sort of plants you can add, and they will just become a feature and make your garden just a bit more interesting, which is what we're all aiming at. Of course, if we're not going to use plants, then we can use sculptural elements. So this is the mud made in the Lost Gardens of Halligan. It was a really cool feature of that garden, and they had about 2 or 3 different features that were quite amazing like this. And just a real draw card, and people were really interested. And as you're walking around the garden, when you see something like this, it looks really, really cool. And of course, this is another one from Thomas's Dream Garden. He was an absolute amazing amount of different sculptures that he placed in his gardens. This is a really fun sculpture I really liked. And obviously there's these sculptures that are placed around the garden can just add interest and surprise and intrigue and make you think a little bit more about what's going on. And then there's this is a natural stone feature, so a big rock with a hole in it. This is at the Total View Garden, and just really sort of nicely sets off. And then we've got some sculptures. This is like a bronze sculpture at Botanic Gardens, the Bird Lady, and just fun, interesting, adds another element to the garden. So the next point is to go on to adding more dimension to your garden. This can be done by borrowed scenery and space and creating avenues and windows. So this is an interesting way to do that. So they've made a window in the garden with this stone walling, and it sort of ends up focusing your view, and then through the window obviously you've got something to look at, which is the sculpture. And then there's mirrors. Mirrors can also add reflection, another dimension. And then this one here at Hamilton Gardens, where they've used this beautiful archway to go through, and it's like almost like another dimension. And again, similar to that, we've got this one here at Bodnant Gardens in Wales. We've got this is the Laburnum arch there, and it just directs your view through that tunnel. So you can't really, if you're talking about gardens, people just naturally sort of go to flowers, and flowers are great. They are in themselves very vibrant, and they have scent. So a lot of them have scent like roses, and they come in very different, obviously different colours, and bring in the insects and the butterflies as well. And very attractive to have flowering plants in your garden. Now, if you don't want them all through your borders, you can do, sometimes you can just put them in pots. And if you want a more sort of what we'd call like a low maintenance foliage garden, then you can do that with just have some flower colouring pots. It's not essential to have them flowers in your garden, but I do think it does. A lot of people are attracted to flowers, and you can see why. Of course, if you don't want to use flowers, then there are other options. You can use the foliage and textures of plants to create interest. And these are the grasses. Grasses provide flowing movement and are really good to use in your garden, so you should try and use them as much as you can, especially grouped together. Here we've got the mondo grasses at the bottom, and then at the top we've got the colour from the maples, which looks really really sort of stands out. Okay guys, I think those are some of the most interesting features that I can think of to add some real wow and interest to your garden. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and if you have, then please subscribe or like, and we'll see you in the next video.